Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, CEO Nardia. Thank you for joining this very important fireside chat. My name is Monique Usher. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of BELTRAIDE. And I have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Lincoln Blake, Director, Investment Policy and Compliance Unit, and Mr. Ishmael Kiros, Executive Director of BELTRAIDE. So we have a very interesting segment for you. I know the presentations, the different speakers have been very dynamic. And today we want to look at a very important discussion. I know that the conversation has been around the global shift, the level of uncertainty. And so we want to unpack what is important as an investor and why you should choose Belize. So our fireside chat is titled Investing in Uncertainty, Trusting Your Choice in Belize. So we are very honored to have you join us here today. I will have these lovely gentlemen do a quick introduction, share with us what their organization does. And the idea is to have you also connect with them at the end of the discussion. We know that Bridging Markets, Building Resilience is our team for this year's Investment Summit. I do see familiar faces, persons that are in here in the room that are participating for the third year of the summit. We welcome you back. For those of you who this is your first Investment Summit, we look forward to hosting you in 2027. Mr. Lincoln, perhaps I can begin with you.
Yes, good morning. My name is Lincoln Blake. I am the Director of the Investment Policy and Compliance Unit. We at the IPCU, we regulate the incentive programs for the Fiscal Incentive Act and the Designated Processing Areas Act. We also develop a policy, investment policy to be specific, so as to ensure that government is always up to date with its policy changes and amendments so as to comply with the changing environment around the globe, especially the investment environment. And of course, we also look at the several issues that we have, the barriers sometimes that we have in the whole infrastructure, the whole regulatory framework, not only in investment, which does affect, of course, because investment is cross-cutting.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. I will have Mr. Ishmael share, and Investment Policy and Compliance Unit and BELTRAIDE work hand in hand, so let's build on that.
Thank you so much, Monique. So I'm Ishmael Kiros, Executive Director of BELTRAIDE, the Belize Trade and Investment Development Service, which is Belize's national investment and trade promotion agency. We also have a mandate to support MSME development and the development and growth of entrepreneurship. And we have a fourth unit that provides training and capacity building to improve job readiness and employability. I do hope to touch on all the, on the services that all of these various units and our mandate provides in order to be able to respond to some of the questions that, have to do with investor confidence. Thank you.
Building on your point on investor confidence, Ishmael, can you share with us what measures BELTRAIDE is implementing to help investors navigate uncertainty and maintain confidence in a Belize-based venture?
So in the case of investment growth in Belize, just to begin, talking about investor confidence, I think the numbers are speaking for themselves with regard to, how strongly investors, both domestic and international, believe in Belize in terms of investing in Belize. FDI has been growing consistently over recent years. And that clearly is an indication of investor confidence. The question, though, is how to maintain that confidence, how to support those investors, both domestic and international, to continue to to believe, in Belize and to continue to invest. And so in that regard, the services that are on offer are really meant to provide hand-holding, stability, and that needed guidance in terms of, working in Belize, investing in Belize. And so on the topic of aftercare services, we have an open door to investors to first of all begin to understand what their interest is, to sometimes help them better define and understand what it is that they want to invest in. And so I think building that relationship, to get a sense of what the individual projects entail, what they could entail, who is important, to also bring into the conversation what information they may need. And so the services of market intelligence, investor hand-holding, making connections, prompting responses from agencies, all of those things go a long way in really making an investor feel more assured that they're entering Belize on good footing, in terms of, they have an idea and they need to, know who to connect with. And so perhaps just the aftercare services is something that I'd like to emphasize as something that we do to ensure investor confidence.
Excellent. So to note, you had mentioned about the promotion arm of BELTRAIDE in Belize Invest. And of course, to complement that, you look at the aftercare support that's available through the incentive programs. And I must mention the robust approach, proactiveness with creating linkage with the different agencies that are part of the formalization process and ensuring that the investor has an ear, someone to share their ideas, someone to help them navigate investment landscape in Belize. So that's very important, and you complemented it with the different incentive programs available. I know, Mr. Blake, an investor is interested in predictability. Even as uncertain as the world is, when they make their investment, they want to ensure that they can, receive return on that investment. So the stability is something that's very important. Building on what Ishmael shared, can you share with the audience, what recent policy, regulatory reforms have been introduced to create greater predictability and security for investors?
Right, thanks, Monique. Yes, over the past 3 years, we have made 4 amendments to the Fiscal Incentive Act. Our focus was to modernize the Fiscal Incentive Act because it needed some work so as to ensure that we remain competent with some of the changes that were happening. We had, for example, in the case of the MSMEs, the FI legislation is now very MSME focused. And how we did that is that we treated MSMEs with asymmetry, meaning that we're giving them a special treatment within the legislation. While before, we used to ask them for the same application requirements as any other large investment. We said, no, a lot of, especially micro, they don't have land. They have movable assets. So what? So we started asking in the application requirements in the law, we said we will ask them for a receipt of their rentals, for example, instead of asking for a land certificate. And things like that we started looking at so as to treat especially the micro and the small differently. We also looked at the turnaround time, and there were certain components in the legislation that was basically a backlog in the turnaround time. So for example, when we publish the FI, it would be done, for request for comments, it will be done after it is approved. It would be before. so little things like that we had to move around. So a thorough review was done both by BELTRAIDE and the Ministry of Investment, the IPCU, so as to look at all of these nuances and so as to ensure that also we look at the whole priority sector For example, the MSMEs, when we did the first roadshow, we noticed that the MSME sector is so diverse. We couldn't do a priority sector list in the schedules, listing it out. We would have like 20 or 50 pages of MSME sectors. So what we did a negative list. We said, these are the sectors that would not be able to apply for MSME incentives. And there's about 10 of them. While in the case of the larger investments, we have a positive list. These are the ones that we support. Those are the priority areas. So those are the different modernizing, we call it modernization of the Fiscal Incentive Act. And of course, we have also the DPA legislation that has also been amended. We have growth sectors, such as the BPO sector, all right, and which needed additional support so as to continue its growth, and it has worked. For example, what we did is to amend the legislation to allow legally the work from home initiative. We were doing that administratively, which, you know, that is in the gray area. So that isn't good for investor confidence. They said, we want to see it in the legislation, and then I know we're good. So that's what we did. So it's not only that, there's several other things. So we were listening to the sectors that are our partners, our clients, and we continue to grow. I mean, in the case of the policies, we recently heard about the issues with the BPO sector we have significant exogenous factors affecting the sector, or they may affect the sector. And not only AI, we have political issues in other countries that is affecting the sector now. So from before that, we had foreseen some changes needed to be made. So we together with the IDB, we are working on a global digital services strategy. And we also got a grant from the IDB to do a BPO higher tier upskilling project. So, and that has been developed for the last, I would say, 16 months. We have been developing those programs. And of course, we also have the industrial policy that we're working on. So together with UNIDO, we are working towards that. And most people will say, well, why industrial policy for Belize? Well, believe it or not, we're near two well-developed supply chains, Mexico and Guatemala. We just need to connect to those, find ways of how to connect to those, and we could be the feeding basket of manufactured goods, mostly agro-processed goods, and other products to CARICOM or other countries. So, I mean, all of this, and together with the PPP policy that we have developed, is also, and the digitization initiatives. So,
and if I could just add, you know, on the industrial policy, what is infused within it are green and blue policies. And so I think that gives even further guidance to investors as to the type of investment that we're interested in to begin with. And it really, you know, it gives that outlet, you know, or that inlet for that investment. Those things are things that I think really guide and assurance.
I want to just add, it's good that you said that, because to be frank with you, when you meet with an investor, and the first thing we tell them, Belize's priority is the green and blue. So they know already there are certain things that we will not touch. So they can't come with their proposal to establish a nuclear plant or to burn coal. So and that kind of makes Belize be looked at differently. And now I met at these sessions that we had in the cocktail, I met someone from the Houston Intercontinental Chamber of Commerce. And he's saying, you know what? You're hearing the name Belize a little bit more in international fora. Investors are starting to talk about it. And it's because of that highlight of the green and blue.
Certainly has a buzz to it. And I'm also wanting to share about the Belize Investment Business Climate Action Plan. I know it's a robust action plan for us at BELTRAIDE, the IPCU Economic Development Council. And so, you know, for us, we're looking at ways of improving the services that BELTRAIDE offers to investors, and of course the Investment Policy and Compliance Unit. So Ishmael, I know partnership is something that's very important for us at BELTRAIDE, the IPCU, even our parent ministry. We realize that, strength is in numbers, and that can be achieved through holistic collaboration. Can you share how we're fostering partnership to attract and retain high quality investment in the priority sectors?
Strength is definitely in unity. And the reality is that we can't do things by ourselves. We can't do things alone. BELTRAIDE does have a very broad mandate. We have fantastic initiatives that we have, delivered on and that we are envisioning. But the reality is that there are limited resources, and, we can't do all of it by ourselves. However, by pooling, by joining up, by collaborating, we can actually leverage each other's, visibilities, leverage each other's resources, and have more impact. And so we're actively looking to refresh and strengthen the existing memorandums of understanding that we have with various agencies, such as, spanning from academia to financial institutions to even private companies, to just really identify ways in which we can do things together. Really fantastic initiatives, including referral systems, from, the financial institutions to us or vice versa, and right down the line. But the idea is really to, join up, partner, and in the case of, developing our micro, small and medium enterprises, to really invite experts, people who have an expert perspective, to contribute and to join in on the workshops that we deliver, the activities that we, put off, because we want everybody to be exposed to world-class, ideas and perspectives. And so we're very much open to those collaborations, and it's meant to really drive investment. And I mentioned the MSMEs because MSMEs are also investors. They invest time, energy, effort, passion, and of course, there is the need for finance. And all of it builds the economy. I don't think we can underscore how important MSMEs are to the investment landscape.
Excellent. Investment goes beyond the balance sheet. That's something that I think for us as Belize, that's the spirit of investment we have. We look at socioeconomic growth. How are we driving jobs? How are we creating opportunities? How are we ensuring that the investment that we're making today doesn't impact, the future of the population to come? So the investment has to be rooted on sustainability. That is something that's extremely critical for us. And Mr. Blake, I know collaboration is something that's across ministry. It's something that's very important. How does the ministry ensure that Belize's incentive program remains competitive and responsive to global investment trends? We know other countries are pushing their incentive to attract and drive investment to them. How is Belize positioning itself as the leader in the investment hub?
Well, thanks. We have an open dialogue with our stakeholders, our clients. In the case of the amendments to the DPA Act, we had a special carve-out regulation for the BPO sector, in which there are several things that were looked at. One was for example, establishing daycare, because several of the BPOs are saying, we need to establish daycare in our DPAs, and you need to allow us to get duty-free items for this daycare. It has to be state-of-the-art, and it has to be of quality. So, and with that, we'll be able to increase productivity. Why? Because most of our workers are women. They have children. In fact, they have also single dads, to call them, no? So you need to have a daycare there so that they don't worry. You have the children right next door, and they're not worried. They probably work additional hours and work even better, and they're not worried. So we made those provisions in the new legislations. And we made other amendments too. For example, they have issues with cybersecurity. So we included certain carve-outs for a cybersecurity task force within the DPA to work with the Ministry of Home Affairs and the police. So there are different needs for the specific sector, and that's why we had to have a DPA regulation just for BPOs. We did the same thing for the aquaculture sector. The aquaculture sector is went through some really hard times. I know it's speaking out. They're seeing some little light, and we had to create special regulations under the DPA for them to be able to continue the growth. We also created a special entertainment zone with the Tren Maya up north. We saw an opportunity where we carve out we designated an area up on the northern border where could be used as for entertainment and logistics development. So that has its own regulations under the DPA Act, and it allows for not only entertainment, also for different events to be carried out in that area. Of course, the main focus on that area is the Mexican market and the tourism market, because remember the Tren Maya is bringing tourists. Well, we hope that brings tourists from the Riviera Maya. But basically, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that input. I know some of you in the room, this probably is new information to you. And again, we're consulting with private sector to see what specific needs private sector has. And then, of course, we look at ensuring that we are responsive to those needs. Ishmael, I know that BELTRAIDE does investment promotion and aftercare support. We've mentioned incentive programs, but let's unpack that a bit. How does BELTRAIDE ensure investors understand and access these programs?
Yeah, so I think we need to proactively provide quality information, relevant information that is easy to digest. And so, the development and the updating of sector profiles is a priority for us. And it's very important for us to have those, at hand, to be able to really guide investors on the as full a picture as possible on specific sectors. And the same goes for our incentive programs. And so we're looking to just really revamp the information that we have available, the way that we communicate it, and especially through our website. There's a total redesign of our website that is currently underway, and we're really excited to be just about ready to launch it. And so that, I think, will really provide a lot of quality relevant information that is clear, digestible, easy to use, that gives details on specifically the incentive programs. At the same, as Mr. Blake mentioned, we do need to be thinking and listening to our stakeholders as to what needs to be, introduced into our incentive programs. What other things can we add to why Belize? Sometimes it's not only a incentive, it could be some corporate social responsibility element that is of value to an investor or an enterprise that is coming into Belize. And especially in the context of our blue, green, orange focuses, there are going to be those investors, local and international, who want to be a partner on what Belize has to offer. We're definitely trending as a nation. And I even think of, collaborations and partnerships with, for example, the Financial Services Commission and all the great work that has been done in ensuring that Belize is compliant, in terms of, banking and financial regulations that are really, putting us on the world stage, in the spotlight for good reasons. Belize is performing well in that regard, and we certainly want to, tell that message. That's another reason as to why Belize, why invest Belize. And so we're working closely to communicate that and partnering with Finance Belize, which has the mandate to promote Belize as a financial services destination. And so there's a lot that can happen through that partnership, through that dialogue.
Excellent, Ishmael. You took me back to 10 years, a decade ago, as an intern at BELTRAIDE. One of the first things I had to do for Belize Invest was update the investor's guide. It was 100 pages long. We condensed it. We've improved since then. CEO, don't worry. I saw that eye. We've improved. And again, this is all a part of being responsive to the needs of the investor and the ease of doing business. I know I have been wielding question to Mr. Blake, Ishmael. We have a 5-minute for Q&A, and we invite questions to be directed to either Director Blake or Mr. Ishmael Kiros from BELTRAIDE. So we welcome your questions.
Anybody, don't be afraid. No question?
Just to add, I had a conversation with Mr. Blake, and he mentioned he has Bokatura skin. And Ishmael, much the same. So we welcome the questions. We want to hear from you. And of course, this is a forum for us also to look at improving the services that we offer as a collective BELTRAIDE and investment policy and compliance unit.
And perhaps just to prompt and stimulate, one of the strategies that I'm using with, my team is that, especially when we represent BELTRAIDE Belize internationally, I would like for everybody to prepare beforehand, look at the agenda, come up with a question, and be the first to say Belize has a question or Belize has a contribution, because we must be heard. We need to be heard as a people, as Belizeans, because the time of being wallflowers is past, So questions, let's get them going.
Hi, Miss Michelle.
Hi, good morning all. I'm here presenting Belize Foam. Belize Foam has been around for 41 years. And as an investor in Belize, there's just concerns about protecting the investment here in Belize. And we have a lot of mattresses coming from Guatemala, porous border, companies importing through customs. And how does the company here in Belize get investment protected by the government?
Thanks, Michelle. First of all, what we do at especially the Investment Policy and Compliance Unit, we basically are the Secretariat for the Designated Processing Areas Committee, and also we have to do a cost-benefit assessment before it goes to Cabinet in the case of the fiscal incentives. We do take a look at those master lists requesting for duty exemption. And most of you who have applied, you will know that if you have products within that list that are produced locally, you will get a call from the ministry asking to explain and justify and to see how we could explain to you that there's also local production. Sometimes what happens is that the local production may need to increase its standards for some of the projects, but there is a keen look at those numbers and those products so that the company is not sidelined. In many cases, not only Belize Foam has been granted a lot of assistance when it comes to that. I know that there's a lot more to do. The public service is quite large, and we know that we're cognizant that sometimes we need to probably work on a procurement policy, and not only for the larger companies, but especially the MSMEs. But it's something that it's a challenge, but we need to find that balance because we don't want to leave our clients hanging. We want to make sure that the companies continue growing.
Well, just before you interject, I do want to say my mattress is from Belize Foam. And trust me, the accommodation here is lovely, but I can't wait to go back home in my bed. So Ishmael, can I have your perspective now?
I love that, and I'll build on it, well, first of all, by, building on what Mr. Blake said in terms of, I'm really surprised, I'm really happy, that Cabinet, in looking at fiscal incentives applications, insists on, not approving things that are actually made in Belize, not approving duty exemption for things that are made in Belize. We want to encourage, that the investors have Belizean inputs. So things that are made in Belize are typically not, allowed to be duty exempt. So that's a great first start. But building on Monique's contribution, we have really exciting initiatives like the Buy Belizean campaign. We have a loyalty passport program that we want everybody who has attended the summit to be aware of, and you'll be getting information on that. We have your email addresses and WhatsApp numbers now. So we'll be following up with you to promote that. The idea is to give prominence to Belizean products, Belizean-made products, so that everybody knows that what we produce is quality. I think it's been said before that what we have is gold. We have to just believe in it, and we have to encourage all consumers, in Belize to buy Belizean.
Excellent. I can entertain one more question, and I'm stretching it a bit thin. I see her here already texting me. One more question from the audience, please. Yes.
Thank you. You're talking about supporting Belize by doing these incentives for the foam company, for whomever. Do you view it the same way in the tourist industry, for instance? Construction, equipment, concrete. I mean, is it viewed the same way?
In terms of accessing the fiscal incentives program?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, it has been the tourism sector that has taken up the program and the benefits for the most part. And so we're really happy nowadays that there are other, industries, sectors that are benefiting, especially, all businesses. It's open to foreign direct investment as well as domestic investment. But yes, tourism is definitely a priority area, and you can certainly, we can certainly explore it with you to understand your project a bit more, to be able to guide you in terms of, the nuances of it, so that then we can put together an application.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that. I think that in the cases of the tourism industry, that is mostly the FI program. Just like the DPA program, it's mainly the BPOs and aquaculture. But you are the FI if you're in this tourism sector. But we have to strike a balance sometimes when you're looking at your list, because we're trying to support local industry. Especially some of you might say, all right, I need to import art or painting or some sculpture. We have nice local sculptures and paintings too.
I buy them and take them back.
Let's meet halfway at least. All right, don't import everything. So things like that, we work with you. All right?
Excellent. This morning session truly made three things clear for me, and I'm hoping that's the same for you. Belize build confidence through stability and proactive investor support. We've outlined the support that's available. And of course, we do invite you to reach out to BELTRAIDE, the investment and promotion agency for Belize, that also has the Export Belize unit that provides support to companies that are looking at exporting their locally made products or services. I must add that. I know Mr. Blake harped on BPO. The second is that investor reforms are evolving and remain competitive globally, and so Belize needs to be at the forefront to remain resilient. And those are the 3 points I want to leave you with. We're building the investor confidence. We're remaining competitive globally. We're looking at reforms, what it is that we can offer to enhance the overall investor experience, and most certainly being resilient. We're not just thinking about today, we're thinking about the future. So I want to end off on that note that Belize is more than a place to invest. It is a place to grow with confidence. Welcome to opportunity. Welcome to Belize. Welcome home. So thank you very much. I truly enjoyed this segment with Mr. Lincoln and Ishmael. Thank you so much.